What is Psychemaxxing? Well, in this video I'm going to lay out something like a theoretical framework for a way to use social media algorithms and music, and I'm sure there are other things you can tack onto this, but I guess in this case I'm going to focus on purely psychological sensory input type of things, which you can, that being, hearing and seeing, to direct your psyche into something like either a manic state or some state where you are more delusional in a positive way. I think a lot of times these algorithms we see in, for example, lawsuits over TikTok about kids who kill themselves or develop eating disorders due to getting pigeonholed into some sort of algorithm. In a negative way, we see the kind of psychological impacts that these things can have. The point here is to be able to use psychological inputs alone into directing your psyche in a positive direction rather than a negative direction. And that might seem like sort of trite, but what I mean is to do this in an extreme way, to do this in a way which induces you into mania or induces you into delusions of grandeur, such that you set your sights higher, and often that will mean that you achieve more. I think most of the time addictive algorithms take you to points where you achieve less, where you are more depressed, where you just waste your time. And I think that same kind of psychological infrastructure, psychologically addicting or, emotionally stimulating infrastructure, that can be used for positive ends in an extreme way. In the same way that it is extreme when you use social media and waste all of your time, such that you don't even notice the hours pass by. You sort of wake up an hour and a half later, you're like, what was I doing? What was I supposed to be doing? Didn't I have something to do? That is an extreme state, but it is a state of extreme lethargy or complacency or addictiveness to a malaise. And all these people who are against social media say things like, oh, you just gotta get off the apps, bro. You just gotta, change your mindset, man. Have some discipline, bro. I think that that's never going to work, because the technology is here and everyone knows how addicting it is. And, there's a few LARPers who get off the social media and get off the internet and go, effectively isolate themselves from the modern world, from what everyone normal is doing. But the fact of the matter is, the drug, that psychological drug, is out there. The idea that you can have an infinitely scrolling feed and it's easy to interact with and it's entertaining and so on. This is a powerful substance. It's like the invention of the railroad. You can't uninvent the railroad. I want less stimulation, man. I want to have less trade. So we're going to uninvent the railroad. How about instead of shipping garbage on the railroad, we ship, manic states. We ship something which drives you to something greater on those algorithms. And I don't want it to be normal. I kind of want it to be odd and strange, politically intense, emotionally intense, spiritually intense sort of feelings should be shipped on this psychological infrastructure, and it should motivate you to go do something. Maybe you have some things in the back of your mind you should be doing, but you don't do them, or some things you'd like to go try, but you don't do them because you're addicted to social media, or whatever other time-wasting thing. And so if you want to be a high-achieving person, you kind of have to have a delusional view of yourself and of what you can accomplish. And that psychological state, that feeling, that qualia can be shipped on social media, on scrolling on apps with music, intense music that's causes you to dissociate, causes you to think about things in a grand way. One of the psychologically extreme states I talked about was the extreme lethargy or complacency that social media can generate on some algorithms. On other algorithms, it can generate extreme depression, extreme body dysmorphia, which actually maybe is one of the things that can guide you in a positive direction, at least for a time, to take you out of complacency and into something extreme, to get you to change something. Obviously, you don't want to be bodily dysmorphic forever and be some kind of a freak, but maybe for a time, that's an important psychological state to cultivate. Similarly, in some cases, I don't know if I just mentioned this, social media algorithms will make you depressed or body dysmorphia, or I'm trying to think of any other things if there are any other things that these social media companies have been sued for, maybe suicidality. And so this kind of psychological infrastructure has the potential to, change your whole psyche, to give you a feeling and to, ingrain a psychological state into you. And that is extremely impressive. This is the sort of thing that ritual would have done, maybe a few hundred years ago, or psychoactive substances do. This idea of being taken out of your body, having a spiritual experience, you're basically being burdened, inflicted with some kind of a psychological state. And that's an extremely impressive ability for perhaps on-demand 24/7 music to do to you, or 24/7 available social media to do to you. And so that should be harnessed. I suppose that's kind of the whole idea. I'm trying to think if there's any other pieces that I wanted to add to this. But yeah, okay, to extend this into a final conclusion, I suppose. So the point is, you can't uninvent the railroad. You can't take back what's already been invented. And so you have to instead use it to your advantage. And so there should be a software project or something like this, some app maybe, that uses addictive algorithms for your benefit, that uses, psychologically intense music for your benefit. And it can recommend that to you. It can give you paired stimulus, videos and audio, but it should be done in a very tailored way, or a way which, not necessarily tailored. I mean, you have to, the whole way that a social media algorithm works is it, determines what you like to look at and then gives you more of it. So it can't be like a false algorithm or one that you don't tailor with your inputs. But the sphere of content has to be limited to, a certain direction. So, you take out all the distracting stuff. You take out all the depressing stuff, so on and so forth. Or maybe even, you do cultivate a depression because you need, some other kind of psychological state. This is like a cybernetic function. Maybe that doesn't make any sense, but that's the idea, is using technology which has been invented, but then using it more, you're sort of like overdosing on the technology. It's like maybe not overdosing on it, but you're sort of already overdosing on this technology anyway, so why shouldn't it be used for something positive? So that's the concept. It's got to be future focused. All the content on this kind of an app would be something like, for example, so why would I want to use this app? Maybe this has all been kind of vague. You'd want to use this because, let's say, you want to induce into yourself, or maybe a group of people, a vision for the future. Let's say you really love walkable cities and environmentalism. You would have your algorithm tailor an experience, tailor a sphere of content to making you see and feel what it would be like to live in, an environmentally conscious, sustainable world. It's visions of field trips to jungles which haven't been cut down and have been around for millions of years, and visions of taking your wife and kids to, some other nature preserve, or teaching people about the importance of protecting the natural world, the beauty of the natural world, or, sort of the schizo-mathematical kind of things that, plants have evolved to do, this kind of deep appreciation for the logic of nature, or the logic of creation, or, so you would have an algorithm entirely tailored to that. And so maybe you can do that with an app of your own, or with some kind of a program where it'll automatically search 1,000 terms about this kind of thing, and then tailor your algorithm toward, animals and spirituality and nature, and, maybe you throw in like some crazy stuff about vibrations and consciousness and the beauty of the world, so on and so forth. That is sort of like an on-demand ideology, an on-demand psychological state, which you can sort of order or what have you. So that's the idea: psychological infrastructure, psychemaxxing, being able to use these algorithms and music and so on to tailor your psychological state. And you can already do this to some extent on your own. You can search up music that makes you feel a certain way, and maybe read a book that makes you feel a certain way, so on. But it's hard because these algorithms are, very addicting already. And so you kind of need a drug just as strong as existing social media to counterbalance, or to suck you in the same way that social media does, but in a different, for a positive end. So, sort of as an addenda to that, how the kind of ideology of this whole idea is to harness technology and to really do it, to really create something tangible. And so eventually this idea should be hammered out and turned into something tangible, some kind of a software project, it doesn't have to be a software project, it can be a tangible step-by-step program on how to change your algorithm, sort of no matter what state it's currently in, into a completely different algorithm. It's kind of like back, what do they call that? Reverse engineering the algorithm of Instagram or TikTok to figure out how to kind of restart that process and to tailor into the content that already exists, which does this. That would be a tangible project, as a step-by-step set of steps that you can do to entirely reset what your algorithm thinks you care about and to tailor it towards some kind of a psychological experience. You give the 100 things you have to search in the search bar, you give the things you have to like or the accounts you have to follow, or the idea of maybe you create an additional account on Instagram and then you just tailor that one's algorithm toward environmentalism or whatever your end is. But for now, the tangible thing is to expand upon this idea. Ask me questions about this. Maybe I'll upload a video answering questions if I wasn't clear. If you're a like-minded person, you can, if you get the idea, if you've got something to add, make a video yourself or promote this kind of idea somewhere. Get some eyes on it, get some talent kind of directed toward this, some thoughts directed toward this kind of thinking. It's like a semi-cyberpunk kind of thinking, kind of psychologically manipulating yourself on purpose, consciously, using technology, but for good ends, not for the ends of, money. So that's the idea. And that's the actionable piece of this, is think about this idea, share this video, like and subscribe. That's the actionable part, like and subscribe. Yep. Anyway, that's the idea. Expand upon this idea. That's the current stage of the project. Think about it, expand on it, and maybe find if there are other people who have already thought about this, read their work. I don't know, I feel like some people maybe in the 80s or something, when they were kind of in that sci-fi era, probably had some thoughts about this when, all this kind of stuff was kind of on the horizon. People could see it coming. People could see VR experiences and living in the metaverse coming. I forget, I read a book called, ask ChatGPT these details and it'll come up with the name of the book. The guy works in the metaverse and he's a pizza delivery driver, and his name is like Hero Ninja or something like that. Type those details in. It's a book that was written in like the 80s or something. And I think it won a Hugo Award or something. It was some semi-famous author. Anyway, that was written a while ago, and it kind of had some kind of themes of, cybernetic enhancement and this kind of stuff. So I'm sure there are other books written at that time which maybe those ideas have fallen out of vogue, but you can find some inspiration there as well. Anyway, that is the conclusion of this video.